welcome to Let's Talk ASPM. My name is Mark Lambert, Chief Product Officer here at ArmorCode, and I'm joined by my good friend, Karthik Swanam. How are we doing, Karthik?
Doing fantastic, Mark, and glad to be here with you.
Yes, we're getting into a nice rhythm with these. And the thing that I really appreciate, Karthik, when we talk is you bring this perspective from really outside of the vendor community. You're our chief security and trust officer here at ArmorCode, but your background, at AT&T, at Kroger, you really have that perspective of understanding what is in the mind of the CISO and what security organizations need. So what I'd like to do today is actually talk about, obviously ASPM, that's what we talk about, right? But what is it that security teams are looking to achieve with ASPM, and what should they look for from an ASPM platform? And the nexus for this is, or the genesis for this is the ASPM buyer's guide that we've just released. And check out the show notes, everyone. They'll be actually there in there. You'll be able to click and download that. So let's start with the first question, Karthik. When you look at an ASPM, I know you were looking before you joined us, what problems were you looking to try and solve? What was driving the need for an ASPM in your world?
Fantastic, Marquez. My first and foremost job and my responsibility at ArmorCode is to protect and secure ArmorCode as a company, as a platform, right? Everything else is secondary. We're a security company, and we are a security company that is managed securely, right? When you put that two things together, it is a powerful statement. How do you go about doing it? We are, any company today is a digital company, software company. A lot of applications run their businesses, right? For us, we're a security company that runs our business through software, right? So in order for us to be able to run a secure business, we need to have secure posture management capabilities, right? And talking about ASPM being, I would probably say, a collectively exhaustive capability that brings in all sorts of security posture management. Right. Henceforth, ASPM is very vital for us to be able to not only, understand our security posture statement, but also helps us say, hey, where do we need to focus? What is our priorities? What am I going to do tomorrow to ensure my security is preserved and I'm enabling the business while I'm preserving the level of security, right? That is why ASPM is critical for us at ArmorCode. For that matter, I would say for any company that has got a software digital footprint.
Yeah, and I think to overuse the adage, everywhere, every software is every company is a software company now, right? I mean, Kroger, in your prior life is like the software right there, obviously in all of the cash registers, but then you got the mobile app, you've got the website, you've got the AI data you're having to manage, and to be able to get like a comprehensive posture requires a complete ecosystem of tech. So when you're let's take this from two angles. Like what yourself as a CISO, what you look for in a company or an ASPM solution and a provider, but then also your team. What did they look for? What did they need to help them kind of like really define and understand the security posture? And take it whichever way you want. If you want to take it from your side first or your team side.
Yeah. I mean, I'll start from my side to start with, right? As a leadership position, as any of you in your leadership roles, right? You need to be able to think about whether do you have the right solution, right? Whether your solution is able to handle your entire ecosystem. I know that you refer to the word ecosystem, right? I may have hundreds of applications and systems. I may have to be able to map it back to a collectively common set of business capabilities. I may have 5 scanners. I may have 4 code repositories and code review tools, right? So first and foremost, I would say, who is going to give you a collectively exhaustive level of capability, meaning ingesting, all your source tools, right? You don't want to have 1 or 2 or 3 alone, right? Then what are you going to do with the gap, right? So that's not a good. So I think one is to be able to say who's going to be able to give you a entire estate coverage. That's number one I look for. Number two, you know what? Yes, ASPM is relatively a new capability in the security domain. It's not as old as a firewall would be, but that kind of said, I look for companies that have, not only trailblazers, but also have established capability. Are you been in the business for 3 to 5 years or 2 to 3 years, right? So have you established, your product and capability in the marketplace that has taken in input from being in that real life? So how much of your real life implementations, right? And also all of these tools are very dependent on data and experience, right? So if you have volume of data that you're trying to ingest, right, not only from my own company, but many different sources, it gives you, right? It gives you the breadth of experience so that your product can be better. So these are all like high level traits that I look in an ASPM type solution. Going back to my team per se, they need to execute this day in and day out, right? They're going to look at to say, well, how effective and efficient the capabilities are, how much of automation can I drive, how much of robust runbooks that I can help drive towards that, right? And how much of that independent layer that kind of brings it into it. Not only I can bring all of this stuff, but I can dedupe it and correlate it, and not just saying by words, but also how effectively can you do it, right? So is it my team looks at it saying that, hey, can I do my job better, faster, cheaper, right? Meaning quicker, right? So that is some of those pieces that my team looks for, right? So I look for maturity of the capability and what powers your platform and providing that kind of, breadth of capabilities, while my team looks at saying, how robust that capability is, how much automated capabilities that I can drive, and how it's going to help me do stuff that I can do better, faster. Right? So hope that helps answer the question, Mark. So
Yeah, it did, and I think you touched on a couple of key points, right? Is like you're looking for a company that's been delivering and a company that is also still agile, right? And I
sure.
think that's always the challenge in the market. I mean, it's one of the reasons I joined ArmorCode is like the way that the team delivers is just phenomenal, and the traction that we've had over the last 2.5 years that I've been here, and over the last 4 years since we came, we were incepted, has been phenomenal. I mean, the Gartner peer review insights, you can kind of see, as a newly established company and focusing solely, to your point earlier, is like we're focused solely on the governance layer, the orchestration layer, the piece that's independent of the scanners. And the reason being is that that world is very diverse. You're going to want to be able to change those scanners as you need
Correct.
to. You also got a very, I think you say like, hey, 4 scanners on the code base, 5 scanners on the infrastructure and cloud. It's like you're already there at a dozen. What happens when some of those change? You need to be able to make sure that you've got an ecosystem that can manage that.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It needs to be modular, right? I need to be able to switch pieces in and out depending upon the relevance, right? Because you can't expect your product, your vendor space to be constantly innovating, which most of the companies do. But if they don't, you need to control your destiny. And for you to be able to control your destiny, you need to be able to abstract those layers. And if you abstract those layers, then you can control those pieces, in a better orchestrated manner.
Yeah, and the another thing that you talked about there was actually the the volume of data, knowing kind of like the how much how robust the platform is, how how much it's been validated, and the thing about the volume that I also think about is obviously, as you and I have talked about on previous podcasts and offline, is like how we can start leveraging AI more and more to streamline, innovate further,
Yeah.
and streamline the processes. And when I think about where the data is, there's deep pockets of data in individual tools for sure, right? But as we start looking at not just the volume but the variety, and how
Hmm.
to build on the validation of that across the within the case of ArmorCode, we have over 1,500 security professionals supporting over 75,000
Yep.
developers, right? And that's a lot of validation, a lot of process, and
Yeah.
a lot of way where we can really kind of like then start taking not just to, hey, how do I get my current security debt under control? How do I drive that down? But how do I future-proof myself, and how do I expand further from that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think Mark, your team and the product team at ArmorCode does a fantastic job, right? Because I've seen it firsthand. In the way I look at it is, it's a delicate balance between not having enough data versus having a lot of data. Not having enough data, you don't have a lot of intelligence to go off of, right? If you have too much data, you don't want to get flooded with that information, and how are you going to find the needle in the haystack, right? So what I've seen firsthand is we have enough volume of data and you have intellectual property on top of it, AI-based, correlation and such, which then actually makes a lot more meaningful prioritization and decisioning using this volume of data. So you're basically using this to your benefit and your advantage rather than a handicap, right? So I think having that volume, companies, if you don't have enough data, what are you going off of, right? No experience is not a great thing. You have too much data and you're not able to, you're swimming in noise, that's also not a good thing, right? But if you can put these together and apply these capabilities in the optimum level, using AI-powered correlation that you talk about, which actually makes it much more powerful for us to be able to have a capability in the ASPM space that is much more meaningful, much more targeted, which can give me precise, actionable capability.
So when just take a little bit of a step back, and it's like when you talk to providers and you're looking at, you're not just looking at the technology. I think that from what I want to take away from you said earlier is like a lot of that you'll be focusing on the team. The team are there to validate.
Yep.
Like, does what it says on the outside of the can, right? Am I able to achieve the goals that I need to achieve? You're doing more of an evaluation of the company, their strategy, their traction that they've had so far.
Yep.
What's kind of like focus come in, because there are a lot of vendors in the space that have fingers in multiple pies. Obviously in the ASPM space, obviously there's organizations like an ArmorCode where we're not a scanner. You're a pure play ASPM. There are organizations which are kind of like AST tools, doing tool scanners and then having a layer of an ASPM on top of that. There's even vulnerability management workflow tools also kind of like doing that, becoming more vulnerability management space. Kind of like, how do you view kind of like focus and how does that play into a decision as you're building in essence a practice at your organization?
Yeah. So the lines start to blur, right? And every company, every product organization want to stretch themselves into other areas where there is probability, more light in the end of the tunnel type of an approach, right? But when I look at it as saying that, are you a specialized capability? And if you're purpose-built capability, if you're a purpose-built capability, and if that's one thing that you do, you would do a good job in that one thing that you're doing it, right? That's fun, first and foremost, right? You're not all for everybody, right? So you are focused and you're purpose built for a purpose. That's very important, right? The second thing I look at it is also the maturity of the leadership in the organization, right? Who's driving the vision? Are we getting where we need to get there, not solving yesterday's problem? That kind of comes in terms of the people aspect of it, right? And then any product, any company has to see through it, right? It is a people, process, technology situation, right? If you're going to give me a great, cool technology, that's fantastic. You have good people. That's awesome. Have you thought about my process? How is this going to come and live in my environment, in my household, in my estate? Correct? So if you have thought about the processes, if you have thought about the run books, if you have thought about all of that stuff, and that's the third component, right? The fourth component to think of it is a sense of community being built. I know you talked about 1,500 over 1,500 practices because it's a community sport. So everybody's going to contribute, right? If you build a run book, if you put a playbook, if I've done it, solved it this way, right? Type stuff. So a company and a product that kind of embraces that level of community ship can go a long ways, right? So these are some of the traits that I would probably look for, and I ask my team to look for it in addition to the technical aspect of it, right? So we can take it from, having the community, having the purpose-built aspect of it, thinking through everything from A to Z, people to process, in the technology being in the middle, are all essential attributes that you should look for in an ASPM solution.
Great. Well, thank you. And I was just checking the timer. Can you believe we've been yakking for more than 10 minutes? So I thank you very much. I think, for those that have been tuning in, as I said at the beginning, check out the link below. We'll have a link to the ASPM buyer's guide. We'll also add a link to the Gartner peer review insights for ArmorCode there, so you can kind of check out some of that. Karthik, as always, thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate it. Safe travels, and look forward to seeing you on the next podcast.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me on the show. Take care.
All right, take care.